A very good evening to everyone present here tonight. My name is Brian and I will be your host for tonight. On behalf of the JPO family, we'd like to extend a warm welcome to everyone tuning in for tonight's broadcast. We hope that everyone is doing well and staying safe indoors. A friendly reminder to maintain good hygiene at all times and maintain social distancing when heading out. As we'd like to continue improving your experience with us, please help us achieve this by completing the poll that will be published during this broadcast. To anyone who is interested in sharing tonight's broadcast, a live feed is being shared on the JPO YouTube channel. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask, please feel free to type them out in the Q&A section down below. For those of you joining us on YouTube, please type your questions in the live chat down below. A recording of the webinar will also be uploaded onto the channel. Tonight's seminar features Leah Kovach, with her topic being Essential Art, considering the value and purpose of music during the pandemic and into the future. Leah Kovach grew up in Salt Lake City and is currently based in Denver, where she is a member of the Colorado Symphony Orchestra and was recently appointed to the Central City Opera Orchestra. Leah holds degrees from Indiana University and Rice University, where her primary teachers were Attar Arad and James Dunham. Leah has performed with orchestras and ensembles across 4 continents, including the Schleswig-Holstein Festival Orchestra, the Houston Symphony Orchestra, and the Philadelphia Orchestra. In addition to a performing career, Leah is devoted to teaching and is passionate about expanding opportunities for music education. While studying in Houston, Leah taught lessons in 3 Houston area school districts and participated in the Da Camera Young Artist Program for community outreach. She served as a string coach for the Kincaid School Orchestra's 2012 tour of China and has taught masterclasses at the Conservatorio Ana Maria Valencia in Cali, Colombia. Leah currently maintains a private violin and viola studio in Denver with her husband and fellow violist, Coco Diolgerski. She is also the co-artistic director of the Torrey Chamber Music Festival, which presents chamber music concerts and a student string orchestra program in a very scenic and remote area of Leah's home state. As our JPO family attendees are mostly students ranging from primary school to college, their parents and their teachers, the sharing of knowledge and advice here for all of us tonight is invaluable and greatly appreciated. The JPO is very honored to have Leah Kovach join in as our guest for tonight. I hope they all join me in giving her a warm welcome. Without further ado, once again, a very good evening, or in your case, a very good morning to you, Leah. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Well, to start today's interview, what can you tell us about the video we had just watched? It was definitely a very entertaining one.
Thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So my husband, who is also a violist, as you mentioned, and I have been putting together viola duo videos from home sort of since the beginning of the pandemic. And for that one, it was around December and the holidays, and we were thinking we really missed the Nutcracker. And, you know, that's just a seasonal favorite of going to the ballet. So we wanted to bring a little bit of that fun and creativity and give everyone a taste of a Nutcracker performance for violas.
All right, but I mean, it was definitely a very nice touch with the costumes and everything, especially with the Roomba mouse. All right, so let's move on to the interview. So what does it mean to be an essential worker in your opinion?
So thanks for the question. Of course, music has always been essential in my life. I can't imagine a world without music. This pandemic has, been the first time that we've ever really, I think, considered dividing categories of work into what is essential and what is non-essential. So that we've been forced to think about that. Of course, we're so grateful for the incredible bravery and dedication of the healthcare workers who are, keeping the health of our bodies through this difficult and dangerous time. We're so grateful to all of the workers who are keeping the lights on, who are keeping us fed, taking the garbage out, taking care of those most basic human needs during this time. Of course, in a crisis, we have to take care first of, our physical body. But at the same time, I think music has helped us connect, calm, and to feel uplifted during this very stressful time. I certainly can't imagine being in this lockdown without access to listening to music, without being able to watch films, without reading books. So this is, the art that's really helping us get through this time.
Okay. Well, thanks for your interesting take on the term essential worker. So, how about the effects of the pandemic? How has the cancellation of live performances affected you personally? And to add to this, how do you think it has affected society as a whole?
For me personally, of course, it's had a huge impact. I mean, it's just kind of life as we knew it comes to a screeching halt. And, I used to measure my life in like concert to concert or audition to audition, and that everything was structured around that. And so when that's all taken away, it really does make you kind of look back and think, what's the purpose of what I was doing before, instead of just what's the next performance I have to get through, but why was I preparing for these performances in the first place? In terms of like day-to-day life, I'm very lucky to have a musician in my family, my husband, so I'm able to at least play with somebody in the home, not just, practicing alone during these 9 months. Another thing that this, in a positive way, I would say has affected me is this kind of pushed me to expand some of my skills. So to get a little bit better at kind of video recording, learning how to put together these distance projects that you've seen so many of, where everybody is piece by piece playing their part and you stitch that all together. It's also pushed me personally to be more open about what performances I'm willing to share on the internet. Of course, as musicians, we're such perfectionists. And I was always so nervous to publicize any performance of my viola playing unless it was perfect. And of course, it's never perfect. So that means I would just never share anything. And this has really pushed me, because it was the only way to share my music, since I couldn't play for live audiences, to make videos. And I just realized that when I put these videos out and I send them to friends and family, nobody cares if it's not perfect. People are just so happy to hear the music and delighted by that. So that's been one positive for me.
Well, it's definitely good to hear that you're taking in all the positive aspects the positive aspects of this pandemic to your own development as a musician. But how about how these cancellation of live performances affected society? Like how would you how would you explain that how this pandemic has affected society as a whole due to the cancellation of live performances?
Well, I would think, back to this question about essential work versus non-essential work. One thing that I think the pandemic has kind of made us realize is actually the huge economic benefits of a vibrant arts and cultural sector. We sort of think of this as just like, oh, it's great, it's a luxury thing. It's nice to have the arts for fun. But when we saw, theaters and live performances closing, you see how many people that affects and how many livelihoods are affected by that. For example, when the Colorado Symphony stopped our performances, we had to, that means the whole box office staff is out of work, the facility maintenance, the cleaning, the security, and then not to mention, of course, all of the downtown restaurants and bars and the taxi drivers and the hotels that are all driven by this cultural sector. People go out for a night to see a concert or a show, and they will go out to a restaurant, they might stay in a hotel. So there's a huge economic impact that these have as well. So I think that's really forced us to consider the value of arts and culture just in that, purely economic sense. And then of course, it's just the missing of these live gatherings. Of course, we feel that loss and that ability to experience it together.
And that's definitely something we can all agree on. All right. So as you have mentioned earlier on, that the cancellation of live performances due to the pandemic has caused like significant economic impacts for those involved in this business sector. How about the cultural impacts of the pandemic on live performances? What would you say?
Yeah. Well. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. You go ahead.
Okay. Well, something that I miss most about performing for live audiences, that's really different than the recording experience, is that in a live concert, this music only exists within this certain time frame that you, as the performer and the audience, experience together. And once the concert is over, it's gone. So it's kind of a very very ethereal experience, and there's something really special about that you're just living in the moment for this in this experience together with the audience, and it's not a preserved thing that you'll have later, unless it's of course being recorded. But I do miss that special energy, even though I think orchestras will probably in the future move to a lot more live streaming of their performances, even if there are audiences back allowed in the hall. I could see that as a future kind of change that we see.
All right. So how, like, as you mentioned about the effects of the pandemic, so what do you think the long-term effects of this pandemic will be for performances?
Well, of course, I worry now that we have so much more access to online content, and you can sit, on your couch in your pajamas and watch every orchestra in the world, basically. I do worry, oh, will people still want to go out to see a live concert now that they have access to all of this? But I really do think that they will. And one example that I've seen is with the Colorado Symphony over the summer. We were able to offer some outdoor concerts in this huge outdoor venue, Red Rocks Amphitheater, that usually seats 10,000 people. We were only allowed to sell 175 tickets in this huge, huge amphitheater. So of course it was very safe, it was very spread out, but all of these tickets, they sold out within hours. So obviously there's you can see that there's really a hunger for people that wanted to hear live music. So I'm optimistic that once it's safe to gather again, that people will come to concerts with more enthusiasm than ever, more excitement than ever.
Well, it's definitely interesting to hear that you guys have already gone back to like partially live performances. So yeah. So what was the capacity that you mentioned earlier on? You guys are allowing up to 175 audience members now? Was it?
Yeah. So this was over the summer, so it's outside. We were playing in a venue it's a very famous outdoor venue in Colorado called Red Rocks Amphitheater. And I have one of the pictures actually on the slides.
Okay.
It normally seats 10,000 people. So we're used to playing like sold out shows for 10,000. And because of the restrictions, they were only allowed to sell 175 tickets and have the audience spaced out through this huge amphitheater. So we played like 4 weeks of concerts, every day a concert, so that we could sell, so more people would have the opportunity to see. And like I said, those tickets were gone in hours.
It's a bit sad to hear that it's now very limited to how much you guys can perform for like the general public. So yeah. Oh well. So moving on, just to add on a bit to that, I sort of lost my train of thought there. Sorry about that. Let me think. So this was particularly for an outdoor venue. Are you guys allowed to perform live for indoor venues yet? Or
currently we're not. So
okay.
The restrictions in the United States, it's very different depending on what state you're in. So in Colorado, we are not allowed to play for indoor live audiences currently. So we actually the city owns the hall that we play in. So we were actually only allowed back in the hall this October.
Oh, okay.
So until then, we were only doing, in the summer when it was warm, we were doing outdoor performances for limited audiences. And then we were just doing like distance recording projects until October, that we were really excited to be allowed back in the hall with a very rigorous safety plan, including, weekly testing and of course distance and masks and everything. So now we're doing some projects in the hall, which is really, really exciting and a really strange challenge. We have, 6 feet apart between all of the string players, and then we have 10 feet actually for brass and woodwinds. So now we have the brass that, they're like at the back of the choir loft. So it's an interesting challenge to try to play together. I think that once the pandemic is over and we can all, be closer in a normal orchestra formation, I think we'll all actually be better ensemble players and better musicians from that experience. So it'll probably feel much easier at that point.
Yeah, it definitely sounds that you guys are definitely looking forward to that time. But hopefully
Absolutely.
hopefully that time does come soon, because from what I've seen, the US COVID infection numbers are actually going down by a fair bit now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes, things are looking promising. Of course, we're so grateful for the incredible, science behind the vaccine development, and just hope that, I guess at this point, it's a race between the vaccines and the new variants.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, true.
so
Yeah.
we're cautiously optimistic.
Fingers crossed. Hopefully
Yes.
the concert halls, your city concert halls estimates of October you guys being able to perform again in October meets you guys actually.
Yeah, I think we hope next fall. In the summer we'll probably play outside, and then our hope is next fall we can safely have audiences indoors again.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, all the best to you guys on that front.
Thank you very much.
All right. So how about so early on we mentioned about some of the negative impacts of the pandemic on the performances, because you guys aren't able to perform for large public audiences, and you did mention about the positives, which was basically everybody will be rushing to be able to experience them again. Do you, in your opinion, do you have any more negatives or positives, pros or cons about the effects of the pandemic in the long run?
I hope that one positive will be sort of increased access, around the world. I mean, just the fact that you and I are doing this broadcast together and making a connection that we probably wouldn't have if it weren't for the pandemic is exciting. And one thing that's developed is, taking online lessons and online music classes is really so normal now. Whereas before it would have, I had students that would have thought, oh, a video lesson, how would that work? And now it's just the normal. I'm teaching all of my lessons by video online. So I hope that can increase access and is a way, sort of a democratization of access to music lessons, because no matter where you are in the world, if you have a computer, if you have internet, you can have a lesson with any teacher. You can have access to the best instructors and performers. So I hope that would be one positive. And I can see, the work that you're doing at Jesselton really is a great example of that.
Thank you. So I think we're looking at the picture. Was this the venue that you were mentioning?
Yes, this is Red Rocks Amphitheater that I was talking about.
Okay.
So you can see, normally we play for a crowd of 10,000 people here. It's a really, it's a really beautiful natural venue.
Yeah, I can't imagine how 175 people would fill that amount though. Oh my.
Yeah, it looked very empty.
Yeah. Oh my. Oh well, hopefully you guys will be able to get this crowd again soon. So
I hope so. Yes.
All right. So with that, I think we'll move on to our list of questions. So we have one from the JPO itself. So as you may have heard, the Jesselton Philharmonic Orchestra has involved itself in a variety of activities. So on behalf of the JPO, we would like to ask about your views on the JPO and its activities based on your own experiences with outreach programs. Additionally, how would you suggest that the JPO further improve itself?
Great question. So I'm really impressed with seeing what JPO has been able to do, especially during these difficult times, and the incredible work that you've done in building this program. I think it's so wonderful. Like I said, I think that this is an example of something positive to come out of the pandemic, that you've put together this series, and the online music festival that you had last year with so many incredible teachers and performers, and involving students and giving students a chance to connect, with teachers around the world. So that's, like I said, an example of something that we can hope to keep in the future, as even when we can gather together in person, that you might take elements of that with you. I would say to the students at JPO that you're so lucky to be playing music, and what you've been given is really a gift, and you have this thing that will allow you to connect with someone anywhere in the world, somebody who doesn't speak the same language as you. You can share this wonderful thing together that you both love. And I would say keep practicing, try to take this opportunity to work on your skills, even when you're not able to play in person with other people. And one thing that really helped me and continues to help me as a motivator when I practice is my favorite practice phrase, which is better is perfect and perfect is irrelevant. So don't worry about trying to be perfect, because you'll just, it can be very discouraging. And what I would say is just try to get a little bit better every day. Better is perfect. And also have fun.
All right, I'm sure they'll definitely appreciate your advice there. So just to add on, a bit, so what can you tell us about this photo over here? Because it looks like you're like helping to educate some of the kids here.
Yeah, that was this is from a program I did when I was living in Houston. I think you mentioned the Da Camera Young Artist Program. So we would come up with music kind of demonstrations that connect to what the students are learning in their classes. So a math class or a science class, we would have a music project that would come up with that. So, and this is a piece that you'll see in the middle, there's a percussionist who's playing on different bowls. So this was actually for a science class. So we were talking about the kind of acoustics with the different size bowls and how they make different tones and different pitches based on their size. So we use that as kind of a fun demonstration for the students.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing that with us. So this was the Da Camera Young Artist Program. Okay.
Yes.
So do you so other than this, what else does this program focus on?
So Da Camera is a program that offers both chamber music and jazz, which is kind of unique to have that combination. This is another program from Da Camera. Actually, we did a chamber music concert in a really popular museum in Houston. So they kind of bring music to unusual venues, and they try to bring in new audiences for classical music and for jazz. So that was really a wonderful experience for me, and that's been an inspiration in the music festival that you mentioned also in my biography, the Torrey Chamber Music Festival. And this is a festival where I'm the co-artistic director with my husband. We started it in my home state of Utah. And I brought a lot of those principles from Da Camera to the way that I envision this festival, that our goal is to really make classical music accessible to everyone, and kind of try to get past the perception that it can have sometimes that it's like this elite and fancy thing. We want to make it so anyone can enjoy it. You don't have to have a music education or any formal arts training. It's really for everybody. This is a picture actually from that festival.
Okay.
It's in a very beautiful and scenic part of Utah. And it's in kind of a very rural area. So the students there don't have a lot of access. They have a great violin teacher. So we've been working with her and her students. So they're lucky to have her, but the school doesn't have any orchestra program. So there's not a lot of opportunity for them to play in ensembles. So we hope to provide that with the Torrey Chamber Music Festival.
All right. So given the current situation, have you and your husband been able to participate in any more of these sort of outreach programs during the pandemic, like online mediums and such?
For the Chamber Music Festival this year, we had the students participate in a video project. So it was one, like I mentioned before, where everybody plays their own part and then we put it all together.
Okay.
So we did like sectionals and had all of the students record their own videos separately, listening to the click track so that it could all fit together. So that's, I think that's really, really a challenge. But I was really impressed with how well the students did. And kind of like I said with the orchestra, that we're learning to adjust and play with this huge distances. I think for the students, having that challenge of having to play their part by themselves all alone and have it perfectly lined up is going to make it so much easier when they get back to the ensemble and they can play with other people. Because when you're just playing alone, you don't have anybody if you get off a little bit, you can't just follow your neighbor or look up at the conductor. You've completely on your own and isolated. So I think overcoming that challenge will make it more fun and easier for them later.
Well, it definitely sounds like you're having fun, like doing all the video editing work as well. So yeah, thanks for sharing that with us. So yeah, just before we move on, I would just like to remind our audience, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask, please feel free to leave them in the Q&A section down below, or for those of you on YouTube, please leave them in the live chat down below. So yeah, I think with that we have we have a picture over here. I think someone mentioned that this was from a TEDx. This is from a TEDx program. Was it?
Yes, this was 2 summers ago in Denver. There was a TEDx conference, and this was a performance that was a collaboration with Group Muse and TEDx. So Group Muse, I don't know if you've heard of them. They organize concerts in people's homes. So any person can just like sign up and say, I want to host a concert, and they will pair you with musicians that can come play in your house, and you can invite public, and they'll put everything together for you. You have kind of a built-in audience, so you have a community and a built-in network of performers to use. They've of course moved online during the pandemic, but it's a really wonderful organization and a really kind of fun idea. I think their motto is bringing chamber music back to the chamber. So it's, all about that kind of intimate experience where you're up close and personal with the musicians.
Then again, like we mentioned earlier on, hopefully you guys will be able to get back to this sort of situation soon. So yeah.
Yes.
Definitely looks like a lot of fun. So yeah, I think we've just about run out of time for our questions. So would you like to say anything before we move on to the Q&A section?
I think I would love to end with a quote. This was another reference to the purpose of music and sort of rethinking why we're doing music in the first place during the pandemic. So this year's Vienna New Year's concert, which of course is like an annual fun celebration that's a great tradition, they still performed it, but for an empty hall, and Riccardo Muti was conducting, and he gave a speech that I thought was really inspirational. So I'd love to read an excerpt from that speech.
All right.
So Riccardo Muti said, "Music is important not because it is an entertainment. Many times we see everywhere music considered as entertainment. Music is not only a profession, but it is a mission. That is why we do this work. A mission to make society better, to think about the new generation that in one complete year has been deprived from deep thinking all the time about health. Health is the first most important thing, but also the health of the mind, and music helps."
All right. Well, thanks for sharing the quote with us. It was definitely very enlightening there. So yeah, I think with that we'll have to move on to the Q&A section. So we do have a few questions coming in the chat. Okay. So we have one of our viewers saying, "Hello, I hope you can give me some advice. I play the violin and the viola, but I don't know which I should major in. Could you share with me what are the main differences in between the two, and which would you recommend?"
Well, of course I'm going to say the viola. But thanks for the question. That's great that you play both. I personally absolutely love the rich sound of the viola. It's the closest string instrument to the range of the human voice. So for me, I find it's just a very deep, expressive instrument. And I really enjoy the role that the viola has to play in ensembles and in the orchestra. Even if you don't always notice it, it's that crucial inner voice, that kind of glue that's bringing the high and the low sounds together. And I've always really liked playing the interesting harmonies that the viola has. So I think, for you, what I would say is think about kind of what your personality is like. If you want to be playing the melody all the time, if you really enjoy that role, I would say violin might be better. Violin does have often more kind of fun, more showy, more interesting parts in the orchestra. So I think about what really brings you joy in terms of which parts you're playing. and think about what you feel more comfortable on physically. Of course, viola is larger instrument, so it is more demanding physically. You need to really work on your back and your shoulder strength just to, hold that instrument up comfortably. And I would say personality-wise, I think violists are really, really fun. There's always a nice supportive, camaraderie among violists that sometimes violinists, they can be a little bit more competitive.
Yeah, I think we had a discussion about this as well. Like, we tend to have more violists come on the show as well because they're more they tend to express themselves a bit more there. All right. Well, with that, okay. We have another question coming in, but before that, so for outreach programs, so this is another person, obviously. So they are saying for the outreach programs that you did for festivals, did you have any difficulty in getting sponsorships or any sort of a financial support?
Oh, that's a great question. So of course, that's always, the first challenge when you want to start a music program is how are you going to fund it? In the Torrey Chamber Music Festival that we started in Utah, we were really lucky to work with an arts organization that already existed in this small town. And so through them, we were able to find some local donors who kind of gave us a first start. And then we applied for a grant from the state that we got. And in the past 2 years, we've been very successful fundraising so that we've been able to keep the ticket prices very low. That's part of our goal of making this music accessible to everyone, is to have the ticket prices very low. And we've also been able to highly subsidize the tuition for the students with donations from individuals, with corporate donations, and also with grants, so that we're able to pay the musicians, the teachers, without having to charge a lot for tuition, which is our goal. So far, we've been lucky. Of course, you never know after the pandemic how things will spin out, but we're optimistic.
That's good on you. That's good on you then. Just to add on a bit to this, because like mentioned in your profile earlier on, you are sort of an advocate for developing opportunities for music education, as shown with all the various festivals and outreach programs that you yourself have done. Do you feel that more could actually be done in the sense where the government could support musical education more in your opinion?
I do. I think I would love to see the expansion of music education in public school, so that I think every student should have the opportunity to pick an instrument and to have access to really high quality instruction and the opportunity to play together with other people. I think there's so many benefits to this. There's obviously, there's a lot of studies done on the impact music can have on, excelling in math and science. And I think also just the lessons that it teaches you about how to work with other people, how to communicate. You have to be able to really, really be flexible as a musician, and you have to be willing to work with other people towards a shared common goal. So it helps teach you a lot of those skills about teamwork and leadership.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. So we do have another question here, also from one of our audience members. So, hi Liam, would you say music is essential in contributing to the emotional health of people? What's your take on this?
It's certainly essential in contributing to my emotional health. I would say absolutely. And actually, my mother is a music therapist. So she has worked her whole career. She works with elderly people, also with individuals of different ability levels, and people who've experienced emotional trauma. And she uses music as a way to comfort people through those, and a way for people to express themselves. So she has people write their own music that can express themselves, or to find music that helps them represent their any emotional trauma or struggle through the music. And of course, we say that, where words end, music begins. So it's a way to express the inexpressible, basically.
All right. Well, just to add on a bit to this, because as you mentioned earlier on, like the whole purpose of music nowadays is like trying to bring people together and help to
Mhm.
uplift the mood and everything, right? So given that the pandemic sort of doesn't allow for live performances and such, and you yourself have been working on making online videos and such, would you suppose that such skills involving like video editing, music editing, and such would be part of the norm for the future for the future of musicians. What's your take on this?
Yes, I think so. And I think, we have to start sort of expanding what we do as musicians. It's not just performing for the audience that's come to the hall and bought tickets, but finding new audiences and new ways to reach anyone where they are. So yes, I think um, we'll need a wide array of skills in the future.
All right. How would you like to elaborate on this? What other sort of skills have you been tinkering with during this time, other than like you
Uh,
said, video editing and having to
well,
adjust the sound?
yeah, well, adapting to teaching online, of course, I've really had to change my teaching style a lot because, especially with children, I did so much hands-on, put the instrument here, move the bow for them and set them up physically. So having to find ways of showing and communicating without being able to actually touch has been a challenge. And, I think, obviously some musicians are really good at promoting and putting themselves out there on the internet, at creating great online content. And so I think the pandemic has been an opportunity for people to kind of get to shine who are really excelling at that.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for sharing your insight to that, Leah.
And
So oh, go
I
ahead.
have one more comment about whether you asked, do you think that the government should be more supportive? And I think beyond of course, I was talking about music education in schools, but I do also hope that, especially in the US, we can have more government support for the arts organizations, like the large orchestras and the operas. For example, at the Colorado Symphony, we were just given an anonymous $2 million gift that is helping, which is amazing. I'm so incredibly grateful and fortunate. And because of that, the symphony is able to continue paying salaries through the end of this season. So that's wonderful. But at the same time, I wish that we weren't so reliant on, the generosity of one individual wealthy person. And I wish that every orchestra would be kind of guaranteed that stability.
That definitely is something that I think you and the Yapling would like to discuss a bit on. With that, we have a few more questions in the coming through the chat. So this is also coming from one of the audience members. Hello, would you like to share with us what sort of rewards you get from reaching out to the people through music, through your outreach programs, basically?
What rewards I get personally? I think it just helps me. It's very fulfilling because I can see the impact of what I do, that it's not just, I've spent so much time just sitting in a practice room trying to play the viola in tune or, get a passage perfectly. And doing the outreach work I do kind of helps me realize why I was doing that, and that there's what the importance of and the impact that can have.
All right. Well, thanks for that. So we have another question coming in. So as you know, the online playing music together is almost impossible with people from different places due to latency on the internet.
Yeah.
So how would you go around it? I'm assuming not assuming that you're doing pre-recorded videos and mashing them up together.
Yeah. Yeah, I have not had any success, trying to do anything in real time online. I know that there are some platforms. I think one is called Jam Kazam, that is supposed to actually allow you to play together in real time. But I don't have the equipment required for that. And I haven't invested really in a setup for that. But I mean, if this pandemic keeps dragging on too much longer, I think that I might finally, try to do that. So yeah, it's not the same. You're not playing in real time with people. And I always, when you do these projects where everyone records their one part separately, of course, whoever gets to record last has the most fun because they're playing with, a bunch of other parts. And whenever you're the first person to record, it's the worst because you're just playing completely by yourself. But as you, with the projects like I've done with a string quartet, so we layer. So on one of them, I was the last one. We put the viola last. So I had the cello and the 2 violin parts. And so I was playing with my headphones, but that actually felt like I was playing, in a quartet because I was playing with the other parts. So I think that's the closest I've got to with these distance projects to the feeling of the real thing.
Yeah, but I can definitely understand what you mean by that. Like the whole being the last one in this case would be more beneficial because you get the most out of all of it. But then again, I suppose doing it online isn't too much of an issue for you because you get to play with your husband as well, anyways.
Yeah, that's true. I'm lucky that way.
Yep. All right, so we do have another question coming in. So this person is saying, "Hi, I'm a beginner playing the viola. Could you give me advice on how to better hold the viola more at ease because I find it quite heavy?" Okay.
That is a great question, and I think I mentioned that earlier when somebody asked, about deciding between violin and viola. Mm-hmm. So what I can say is that as a violist, and really as any musician where you're holding an instrument, is you want to work a lot on your back strength and your core strength and your shoulder strength so that the instrument's really well supported. And when you lift your arms, you're not just going like this, but your shoulders are relaxed and the arms are lifted by your shoulder blades in the back so that you're really relaxed. And I can show you with the viola. There's all sorts of options, of course, with different shoulder rests and chin rests, and everybody's body is shaped differently. So you have to really experiment, try every kind of accessory you can and find what feels comfortable to you. And then you want to have the viola about shoulder height. So the scroll should be level with your shoulder. So you don't want to be up here and you don't want to be too low down here as well. And then you want to find an instrument that's comfortable for the length of your arm as well. So if you're not a very tall person, you don't want to have a huge viola, or you're just going to be way out here. So.
All right. Well, thanks for the advice. I'm very sure that person is happy to get some insight into how to properly handle the viola, I suppose. All right. So let's see. Just taking a look if there's anything else from the audience. Nope. Okay. I think with that, we might have to end it slightly earlier today. But I suppose that's a good thing for you, so you can maybe get a bit more shut eye because it is about 6:50 there.
Yes.
All right. So with that, I've once again thank you so much for all the responses, Leah, and thank you for joining us today. Sorry everyone, but we are sorry.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun.
Well, the honor is ours. So, sorry everyone, but we are coming to the end of today's broadcast. We'd like to remind everyone that our JPO family program will be broadcasted twice a week until further notice. So that's every Wednesday and Sunday night in Malaysia time. So it differs everywhere. So join us next time with our next guest, who is Joanna Chan, who is a well-known pianist. More details on this can be found on our Facebook page. A video recording of tonight's broadcast will also be available on the JPO YouTube channel, along with the past webinars and the soon-to-be broadcasted interviews. So feel free to share the Zoom webinar registration link, the JPO YouTube channel, or even the JPO Facebook page with your friends and family. For our YouTube audience, if you are enjoying our program, please show your support to us by pressing the like and subscribe button down below. You guys have been an amazing audience. And we from the JPO family wishes that everyone stays safe and healthy as we continue to face this crisis together. So with that, I'll now be leading the prayer to end tonight's program. So please pray in whatever faith you believe in regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. We pray that everyone in the world continues to stay strong in surviving through these difficult times, and that a solution to the virus will soon be found. We pray that governments across the world will continue to improve upon their efforts and decision-making so as to protect their people and curb the spread of the virus. We pray for the safety and well-being of everyone working as we now approach the middle of February. as parts of the world continue to face new surges of cases. We pray for the continued safety and morale of the frontliners who are risking their lives so that they may continue to provide for those in need. All right. So with that, we come to the end of tonight's program. So once again, thank you, Leah, for joining us. Yeah, and thanks to all of you for joining, and thanks to all of you for watching. So good night, and we hope to see you all again next time. See you.
Thank you.